directly from the North Pole and making it feel particularly cold. Temperatures at a maximum of 6 or 7 degrees, but add on the wind and you can take off a few degrees from that temperature in terms of the feels like. And that wind certainly bringing frequent showers, and these showers almost entirely consisting of snow away from immediate coast. That snow really building up across northern Scotland. We're talking about 5 to 10 centimetres over modest hills and 20 to 30 centimetres by the end of Thursday over 300 metres. Likewise, I think Northern Ireland seeing a mix of rain and sleet showers, but the Sperrins likely to see a snow covering. North East England seeing some significant snow accumulations. Most likely the North York Moors getting quite a pasting, 20 centimetres in some places above 2 to 300 metres. Likewise, West Wales and the southwest continue to see showers coming in from the Irish Sea. Parts of Pembrokeshire, a very localised part, could see 10 centimetres of snow. Bodmin Moor, likewise a few centimetres. Away from the higher ground towards the southwest and northeastern parts of the UK where we've got rain or sleet showers, it's going to be icy first thing Thursday, a widespread frost across the UK, so some slippery surfaces around. But actually away from the coasts, away from the northeast and the far southwest, we do have plenty of bright skies and dry weather through the Midlands, the southeast, southwest Scotland, for example. But wherever you are, it's going to continue to feel very cold.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for making us the fastest growing news website in the nation. Because the truth matters, and so do you.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The M73 northbound is closed after junction 2A at Gartcosh due to an incident. The eastbound A487 is shut from Felindre Farshog to Pantigrandi with local diversions. The M65 eastbound at junction 5 in Blackburn with Darwen has all lanes closed, causing delays. The A42 northbound at junction 12 in Leicestershire has one lane closed due to a collision. The A1M northbound between junctions 4 and 6 in Hertfordshire has 2 lanes closed. And on the trains, Northern buses replace services between Corkicle and Whitehaven. Transport for Wales faces disruptions between Newport and Hereford. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Feet earlier this year as part of the first group to trek the same route as Lawrence of Arabia.
A former Special Forces officer, Howard Leedham, followed in Lawrence's footsteps across Saudi Arabia and Jordan in a 25-day journey. And I'm very happy to say he joins us now. Howard, thank you very much for coming to see us.
Thank you for having me on.
Now, talk us about what you're putting on having completed that remarkable trek.
Well, we did the trek in January and February, and I was odd enough to lead a team of Special Forces Club members to do the entire route that Lawrence did in 1917. 685 miles, 1,100 kilometres, took us 25 days. We started off with 5 riders, 4 riders made it. And the last 9 days we spent in Jordan. And one of the things that in Saudi, we would basically follow Lawrence's route from water to water and go to the same wells that he had gone, because that's what they had to do, as they worked their way around the Nefed Desert. And then, obviously, when they came in towards Aqaba, because the guns in Aqaba all faced towards the sea, yeah. so they had to cross the uncrossable desert to get into the back of Aqaba. And when you come into Jordan, what strikes you is, because of the topography and because of the way that the history is so well recorded in that area, is that you can basically follow almost the precise route that he followed, and basically sleep in the same places that he slept, so you can really feel what they were doing and how they tactically moved down in order to take the port of Aqaba.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good morning, 9:30 on Wednesday the 19th of November, live across the UK, Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, is there an exodus of Brits? 250,000 people left the UK the year after Labour were elected. We'll be looking at the reasons why so many are on the move.
And is there a defence crisis? A major report from MPs warns Britain is ill-prepared to defend itself against attacks. With renewed threats from Russia and China, Labour has been slammed for moving at a glacial pace.
And MI5 warns that Chinese spies are attempting to recruit MPs. Here is the Security Minister, Dan Jarvis.
Our intelligence agencies have warned that China is attempting to recruit and cultivate individuals with access to sensitive information about Parliament and the UK government.
And breaking news this morning, inflation has eased for the first time in 5 months to 3.6% before the crunch budget. At last, Chancellor Rachel Reeves has got something she says to be pleased about.
I do recognise that there's more that we need to do to tackle the cost of living challenges, and that's why one of the 3 priorities in my budget next week is to tackle the cost of living.
And elsewhere, in America, Congress votes to release the Epstein files as there are calls for Andrew Mountbatten Windsor to testify in the US too. And sticking with the stateside news.
Charming. US President Donald Trump snaps at a female reporter telling her to be quiet piggy as he answers questions about Jeffrey Epstein on Air Force One.
And Scotland have qualified for the 2026 World Cup by beating Denmark 4-2 at Hampden Park. It's their first time in 30 years.
9 players in Steve Clarke's side have never seen Scotland qualify for the World Cup, and last night they played their part in breaking that 28-year deadlock. Watch out, America's The Tartan Army is coming your way.
Good news on inflation.
It is.
Only when you look at the breakdown, food inflation going up.
Yes.
Fuel inflation going up. It's actually house prices that are bringing the overall figure down. So it's not day-to-day spending that's improving.
And house prices have fallen because people are terrified by the budget. Talk of a mansion tax and wealth tax and hikes in a capital gains tax.
Yeah. And inflation is still historically so much higher than it was before the 1970s anyway, so still a big squeeze on people's pound. We should also mention, though, today that it's International Men's Day. So we're going to celebrate positive value that men bring to the world, their families and communities, and we'd love to know what you think about that.
I think completely pointless.
Do you really?
I do. And I know that the Prime Minister's hosting a reception for International Men's Day at Downing Street. And Wed Streeting, the health secretary, is going to be there. Oh, to be a fly in the wall.
Indeed, yeah, it could be tense. Could be tense.
After the botched attempt to out him as a plotter
We make
last week.
such a big deal about International Women's Day.
No, I don't.
No, OK, people do.
Yeah.
And therefore we should also have International Men's Day, but maybe we should have neither.
I think they're both pointless.
Well, you heard it here first. Let us know what you think on gbnews.com/your say.
First, though, here's our 60-second news update with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you, 9:30. The headlines on this cold and wintry morning. Scotland are heading to the first World Cup in 28 years after a dramatic 4-2 win over Denmark. Captain Andy Robertson called it one of the greatest nights of his life. Wales keep their hopes alive after smashing North Macedonia 7-1. MPs say the UK lacks a plan to defend itself as the government set to unveil a major arms industry reboot, creating 1,000 jobs. John Healey says Britain faces a new era of threat and must rebuild its industrial firepower. Inflation this morning has dipped to 3.6%, the last reading before next week's budget. Rachel Reeves says it is good news, but the Conservatives accuse Labour of fuelling higher prices. While opposition parties and campaign groups are urging Rachel Reeves to target the wealthy instead of broad tax rises in her budget, the Chancellor is reportedly considering higher property taxes on the most valuable homes. In the US, lawmakers have overwhelmingly voted to force the release of the Justice Department's Epstein files. Donald Trump has dropped his opposition, but the Republican critics say the issue has torn MAGA apart. And new figures show shoplifting cases now take nearly 60 days to reach court. That's up more than 80% in a decade. The government says, though, it is investing record sums to speed up justice. Those are the 9:30 headlines. A full roundup at 10.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are, online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello, welcome back. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, really interesting figures just released today. Net migration to the UK last year, 20% lower than previously thought. But
these were revised figures from the Office for National Statistics, and actually the reason that the net migration figure seems to be less than previously thought is because over a 250,000 British people left the UK in the year ending December 2024, which is 3 times the previous estimate. So actually the same number of people came, it's just that more left, and that's why the figure looks
And there's a suggestion there'll be a record 16,500 millionaires are leaving or already left. This is clearly as a consequence of the Labour government's budget. And you just got to think about some of the people who've gone. That footballer, Rio Ferdinand, left saying Britain's is taxed too highly. He went to the United Arab Emirates in August. The founder of Revolut, which is one of our big tech companies, he's gone. These are really important wealth makers, wealth creators. And it tells you that there's a consequence if you raise the tax.
I wonder if it's possible to break down the figures into which month people left, because, of course, the general election was in the middle of that year, wasn't it, in July? And these are figures for the whole year. So the election was called in May. I wonder if people fled during the election campaign, who knows?
Or fled in the run-up to the budget.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, of course, let's not forget that they did say in their manifesto, remember that? They weren't going to raise taxes.
Oh, yes, except a narrow few, like VAT and school fees.
Exactly.
But I wonder if it is just financial reasons that people are leaving.
I think people think nothing works. I think people are worried about the explosion of immigration. Got to talk about that, how it's changed some communities. Some of our inner cities are completely different to the way they were 30 years ago. I think people feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Don't forget, the Prime Minister himself talked about strangers in their own island.
Yes.
But he then withdrew 4 days later.
Distanced himself from the
his own speech.
But yeah, there is the breakdown in the sense of togetherness and a common identity and things like that. Well, shall we speak to the assistant US opinion editor at The Telegraph, Poppy Coburn? Poppy, good morning. Thanks so much for joining us on the programme. Do you think that people are leaving the UK mainly for tax reasons, or could there be other things?
I think there will be various reasons that are behind people leaving the UK. So the figure that people usually have in mind when they consider the country's in a really bad state, so people are fleeing abroad, it's 1974. That was the last time we had this really massive exodus that was happening over the period of 12 months. Well, this new number that the ONS has come out with is actually much higher than we saw in 1974, which I think tells you quite a lot about not just the fact we do have an increased population, although not increased by that much, but that people are incredibly dissatisfied in the way they were at the middle of the 1970s with the way the government is operating. So I think there's a few aspects to this. As you point out, it's going to have something to do with the budget, something to do with the idea of tax rises. A lot of these people are probably going to be high net worth individuals. There'll also be people who are quite mobile, so have very desirable skills abroad. So I know lots of people actually of my own age group who have been trained to be doctors and who are now going to countries like Australia because they have much better working conditions and they can earn a lot more money and feel that their quality of life will be better. So you've got those groups of people. I think also there are other issues that are at play here. There's this perception that it's difficult to buy a house in the UK, that crime is rising. There may even be people who are dissatisfied with the way the government is dealing with immigration policy. And this is one of the interesting things about how we measure population. You mentioned before in your introductory segment, we always consider net migration figures, not gross migration figures. So if more people leave the UK, the government will then be able to say, well, immigration has come down. Well, actually, the number of people who are coming to the UK is still remaining very high. We're just seeing a lot more people are leaving, which creates its own problems, right? So again, this is, I think there's another aspect to this story, which is like slightly concerning, which is the ONS originally released these figures 6 months ago, and they were completely wrong. They were wrong by more than 150,000 people. Now, I don't know about you, but I would like the Office for National Statistics to, OK, 10,000, fine. I understand these things are difficult, but 150,000 is an incredible metric to be incorrect by.
Can I just ask you, Poppy, Poppy, the historic comparison with 1974, that was the year when Ted Heath lost the general election and Labour came to power with a minority government. Were people fleeing because they feared the political uncertainty of a minority Labour government, or, again, was it because of the prospect of taxes going up, which indeed they did?
I think when it comes to psychologically, leaving is rarely something you'll do on a temporary basis. If you think that perhaps it's just a government that is poor or it's a nasty budget that's coming up ahead, you might grumble, I need to leave the UK, but actually going through the process of leaving is quite extreme. I think actually the reason people leave is when they feel that things will not get better. It's not just that the government that currently exists is poor, or the leadership that currently exists from the government, be it the Prime Minister or the Chancellor, is not very good. But they think whatever is coming next will not be much better, or maybe it will be, but that will be too many years in the future for people to countenance. And I think that's why the Labour government should be very concerned. What this actually is people voting with their feet and saying, I do not want to live in the Britain that currently exists. I do not have hope for the future under this government. And I actually feel so strongly about that I'm willing to uproot my entire life and take my family abroad.
Yeah, it's quite a statement, isn't it?
It is. It's a 250,000 people.
Yeah.
I wonder if the lag in getting the correct figures is because when people leave initially, the statisticians don't know if they've left permanently or whether they're going abroad for 6 months or 3 months. And so I suppose the sheer number of people leaving has meant that there's such a discrepancy this year when there isn't. But maybe I shouldn't be defending the ONS.
Well, there's quite a funny reason for why they've probably got these figures wrong, which is they used to do what seems quite old-fashioned. They would stand in the airport with a little clipboard and they would ask people, are you leaving on holiday or are you leaving permanently? You wouldn't imagine that that's how they actually measure it, but it was.
Wow.
But they stopped doing this a couple of years ago, and they wanted to replace it with a more modernised system. But it turned out this modernised system is somehow worse than having a guy standing there with a clipboard asking you to tell where you're going. But the ONS has quite a few problems, to the extent that several agencies have warned not to use data from our own Office of National Statistics.
Amazing.
Which is incredibly concerning because, I mean, obviously we're reading into political tea leaves about this. I remember when Rachel Reeves first became Chancellor and people warned that rich people would flee the UK, and people pointed to figures from the Office of National Statistics to say that only 16,000 or 17,000 people or whatever were leaving. Well, that was completely untrue. Many, many more people were leaving. So it is concerning if we don't actually know what's happening in our own country and we can't gather data on this, because then we can't actually discuss what's happening politically.
Fascinating, absolutely fascinating.
Poppy Coburn, thank you so much for your insight this morning.
Yeah, well,
maybe people are fleeing because they don't trust the ONS.
Well, I mean, and Rachel Reeves, of course, in opposition, she thought she worshipped the ground the ONS walked on. Let's talk to a businessman who fled the UK, who was well known to GB News viewers and listeners, Charlie Mullins. Charlie, why did you go? Morning, why did you leave?
OK, I went because of Labour, I went because of Reeves, I went because I could predict everything she was going to do. She's robbing the rich to feed all the illegals. And it will continue. I think there's 250,000 that are left, so-called, up till last year. And I think that figure will double this year. And it's not just the millionaires or billionaires. It's really anybody that can afford to leave the UK and wants to leave the UK. I think everyone's fed up with the crime situation, the NHS, the police, the cost of living crisis, all and everything. And I think it's just become now pointless to be in the UK if you don't need to be in the UK.
Charlie, it was the Conservatives that started to tax the rich so much more. I mean, the top 1% of earners now pay 30% of income tax. That's vastly more than it was in the past. It was the Conservatives that froze the tax thresholds. Why didn't you leave then?
Why didn't I leave then? Because I hadn't sold my business then. I sold it, I think it was 4 years ago or 4 years ago now. Yeah, I should have left then. You're right, actually. When I think about it, I should have left. But no, you're right. I should have left then. But now I just got to the stage that I'm not prepared to tolerate. I'm not prepared to put in the pot anymore. I think they just abuse the working class people. Anybody that contributes, they seem to, be attacking them. And giving to people that shouldn't even be in the country, are just pouncing off the country. So you will find more and more people will be leaving this year than ever. And I'm talking to loads of people, normal people that have got a decent job and they're off to Dubai or off to Marbella, where I am. And it will continue. I mean, it's mismanagement by the Labour government. It's the threat of all the increases. And when she brings out this wealth tax on property will drop massively, and there'll be a massive influx of people leaving again. All this crap, what the government come up with their figures, it ain't happening, it is happening, that. It's a load of nonsense. The real people know, and people are flocking away from the UK.
Just very briefly, Charlie, what do you miss most about not living here?
Nothing.
Oh.
Well,
you must miss something.
I'm being honest with you. You're asking me.
Yeah.
I don't miss anything. I don't miss the crime. I don't miss the safety aspect of it. I don't miss the weather. I don't miss the increased costs going up. I don't miss all the pests that are out there that ate successful people. So I don't miss nothing from leaving the UK other than family. But obviously, family come out here.
All right, Charlie, always good to talk to you. That's Charlie Mullins, who left the UK, and it's glad he did. I think he's probably right, more people will go.
I think they will, but only certain people are mobile. It's just not an option for many people. It depends what your job is, depends what your financial circumstances are. But it will be the very wealthy, the major tax contributors.
Exactly.
And then everybody else will have to pay more.
And we're going to look still ahead. We're looking wide. It looks almost certainly now we're going to get a mansion tax. Funny that.
And up next, a huge win for Scotland last night. They made it to the World Cup for the first time in 30 years. Andrew's going to be having some haggis for lunch to celebrate, along with his digestives.
Yeah, with me whiskey.
Yeah, wait till after the show, will you?
But first, have some holiday, son.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
If you're looking to escape the cold weather in the UK, your best bet is Greece, where it will be warmer than average, albeit with some heavy showers. Cold, meanwhile, across Iberia, and that's because the same northerly winds affecting the UK over the next few days will bring colder than average weather to Spain, to Portugal. Just 9 degrees there in Barcelona. A band of rain through the Balearics into Italy, as well as parts of Greece. This actually intensifies during Friday and the weekend, with some very wet weather across Central Europe.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
There's a dark shadow that's begun to loom over the Gloucestershire village of Pilning. This 500,000 square foot warehouse, better known to locals as the Mega Shed, rises more than 20 metres in the sky. Construction of what is officially an industrial distribution hub has been allowed to go ahead due to old planning consent dating back to 1957. The scheme was part of a post-war building initiative allowing developers to build without a full public consultation, leaving residents in the dark.
So you can see out of this window here how big the warehouse is and why we've nicknamed it the Mega Shed.
Retired policeman Paul Selby is greeted by the warehouse every time he opens his curtains.
I don't think you need to be a magician to work out that they've not taken any account of the impact that the thing's going to have on the local area. You can see it from all over the place, and everybody is commenting that it's completely spoilt what was a rural village.
A spokesperson for South Gloucestershire Council said much of the new development at Sevenside is governed by planning permission granted in 1957. This permission gives wide-ranging powers for development with limited remaining control for the council to exercise. A government spokesperson said councils are ultimately responsible for reviewing old permissions if the development is no longer suitable and deciding whether action is necessary. But local MP Claire Young believes similar developments around the country means it is a matter for Parliament.
At the moment, the government appears to be saying, no, it's not really our problem. And I think it is. That's why I want to get a minister in front of me in the chamber so I can explain what I think the problem is and what could be done about it.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good. I said at the start of the campaign, I felt the pressure of the nation to try to get to World Cup. So immediately that falls off your shoulders and you feel a little bit better. But what a fantastic group of players.
Happy scene. Scotland are through to the Men's World Cup final. That was Steve Clarke, I think, the manager of Scotland. It's the first time they've made it in 28 years. They beat Denmark 4-2 last night.
Well, let's speak to GB News' Scotland reporter, Tony Maguire. Tony, amazing scenes there, and I've just been reading that Scotland have only been in the World Cup 8 times in its whole history, so a momentous day.
Yeah, well, that tracks, certainly for most of my life. We've known nothing but defeat in the qualifying stage. And, you know, as I was saying just a wee bit earlier, 9 players in Steve Clarke's squad have never seen Scotland qualify for the World Cup. And yet last night they played their part in making sure that that happened in 2026 when the World Cup takes place in Canada, the US and Mexico. And, you know, that score really says it all, 4-2. Scotland did not have possession. I think they had it for about a third of the match last night. The Danish seemed to be always on the back foot, but nevertheless there was some absolutely incredible set pieces, frankly. 3 minutes in we got that overhead bicycle kick from Scott McTominay, and then of course to close things out we had Kenny McLean from the halfway line taking it right over the head of Kasper Schmeichel into the back of the net just as well, because the referee seemed to have completely lost his watch, because although there was 5 minutes of stoppage time to be played, that was about 7 minutes in by the end of that point. And as you say, this is just such a huge moment for Scotland, and you know, some of the fans last night certainly couldn't contain their excitement either.
I was at France 98. I didn't think I'd have to wait this long to maybe go to a World Cup again.
Neither of these two have seen a World Cup, and I was 9 the last time we made it, so it's a really, really big deal.
So, I mean, I was 10 years old during France 98, back in that qualifying. I'll still remember the opening game where Scotland took on Brazil, you know, and we had a respectable 2-1 defeat at the hands of what was then the best team in the world. But, you know, those memories are a wee bit foggy now, and I think me, along with the rest of the country, is really looking forward to making some new ones next year. But just before I go, can we just note that Wales also won 7-1 last night. I mean, that is, in itself is another incredible.
Right, but still ahead.
Would you welcome women-only carriages on trains? Find out why France is poised to introduce them. This is Britain's Newsroom.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's certainly a cold day for all of us. Arctic winds bringing snow showers to some parts of the United Kingdom, but not all parts. It's going to be sunny in many areas rather than snowy. Having said that, we do have a little feature clearing the southeast first thing, bringing a mix of rain, sleet and snow in parts of the southeast. Once that's out of the way by lunchtime, we've just got this straight northerly wind bringing air directly from the North Pole and making it feel particularly cold. Temperatures at a maximum of 6 or 7 degrees, but add on the wind and you can take off a few degrees from that temperature in terms of the feels like, and that wind certainly bringing frequent showers, and these showers almost entirely consisting of snow away from immediate coast. That snow really building up across northern Scotland. We're talking about 5 to 10 centimetres over modest hills and 20 to 30 centimetres by the end of Thursday over 300 metres. Likewise, I think Northern Ireland seeing a mix of rain and sleet showers, but the Sperrins likely to see a snow covering. North East England seeing some significant snow accumulations. Most likely the North York moors getting quite a pasting, 20 centimetres in some places above 200 to 300 metres. Likewise, West Wales and the southwest continue to see showers coming in from the Irish Sea. Parts of Pembrokeshire, a very localised part, could see 10 centimetres of snow. Bodmin Moor, likewise a few centimetres. Away from the higher ground towards the southwest and northeastern parts of the UK where we've got rain or sleet showers, it's going to be icy first thing Thursday, a widespread frost across the UK, so some slippery surfaces around, but actually away from the coasts, away from the northeast and the far southwest, we do have plenty of bright skies and dry weather through the Midlands, the southeast, southwest Scotland, for example, but wherever you are, it's going to continue to feel very cold.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for our more than 2 million YouTube subscribers and more than 2 billion views. That is Britain watching, sharing and making its voice heard louder than ever before.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. Road users face delays on the A9 due to a collision between Tormore and Dunbeath. Eastbound M65 at Junction 5 in Blackburn with Darwen is closed after a major incident, causing 1.5-hour delays. Congestion on the M1 northbound between Junction 38 and 39 causes 40-minute delays in Wakefield. Derbyshire's A50 westbound between the A516 and the A515 Sudbury has 15-minute delays. 2 lanes are closed on the A1M northbound between junctions 4 and 6, causing 50-minute delays. And on the trains, Northern buses replace trains between Corkickle and Whitehaven. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
There's just 2 weeks left to see how you could win your Christmas this year paid for by us. First, we'll give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash. Then we'll give you a further £10,000 cash to spend on all your Christmas presents, even the tree. Christmas lunch, that's on us too, with £1,000 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite supermarket. Finally, a GB News Christmas goodie bag. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning, it's 10 o'clock on Wednesday the 19th of November. We're live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
So there's been an exodus of Britons. 250,000 people left the UK in the year Labour were elected. We're looking at the reasons why so many people are on the move.
And is there a UK defence crisis? Well, a major report from MPs warns that Britain is unprepared to defend itself against attacks with renewed threats from Russia and China, as Labour is slammed for moving at a glacial pace.
MI5 has warned that Chinese spies are attempting to recruit MPs. Here's our Security Minister, Dan Jarvis.
Our intelligence agencies have warned that China is attempting to recruit and cultivate individuals with access to sensitive information about Parliament and the UK government.
And in breaking news this morning, inflation eases for the first time in 5 months to 3.6% a year. This is before that crunch budget, but Chancellor Rachel Reeves will be pleased with that figure.
I do recognise that there's more that we need to do to tackle the cost of living challenges, and that's why one of the 3 priorities in my budget next week is to tackle the cost of living.
And in America, the Congress has voted to release the Jeffrey Epstein files, and there are now mounting calls for Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, you know who he is, to testify in the US too. And sticking with stateside news.
Yes, the US President Donald Trump snaps at a female reporter telling her to be quiet, piggy, as he answers questions about Jeffrey Epstein on Air Force One.
It's certainly a cold day for all of us. Arctic winds bringing snow showers to some parts.
Well, that cold snap has struck. The Met Office warns snow could bring power cuts and travel disruption across the country in autumn's first big cold spell. Have you had the snow? If you have, send us in your pictures.
Well, we're going to cross live now to Defence Secretary John Healey, who is making a speech in Downing Street.
They work 24/7 every day of the year to keep this nation safe. But this is also a stark reminder that we are in a new era of threat. Our world is changing. It is less predictable. It is more dangerous. And in the last year alone, we've seen the Israel-Iran war bring the Middle East close to the very brink. Armed conflict break out between India and Pakistan. Chinese spies targeting our democracy at home. Putin escalates still further his war in Ukraine. And in just this last year, we've also seen Europe's skies plagued by drone disruptions. We've seen Russian incursions into NATO airspace double, and we've seen 90,000 cyber attacks on the UK defence system alone. This is a new era of threat. It demands a new era for defence, an era of hard power, strong allies, and of sure diplomacy. And as the threat grows, Britain must step up, and we are. Earlier this year, the Prime Minister said security and defence, and I quote, is now the central organising principle of government, the pillar on which everything else stands or falls. And I have to tell you, I'm proud to be part of a government that knows our first duty is to protect the nation and keep our citizens safe. A government that has made a historic commitment to increasing defence investment because our national security does not come for free. So today I will set out how the choices being made by this government before, during and beyond the budget are essential to match these rising threats, how the fantasy savings promised by opposition parties and their record of undermining defence would leave Britain underprotected, and also how this investment comes with a fundamentally new Labour approach, a defence dividend that is already boosting British industry, British jobs, British communities. Now, back in opposition, the then Defence Secretary Ben Wallace admitted his government had hollowed out and underfunded the British Armed Forces. It was a brutal but honest assessment. Defence budgets were cut by £2 billion, but in the first Conservative year, by £12 billion, that's over 20% in their first 5 years in government. So after 14 years, they left British Army numbers at the lowest since Napoleon, forces families in cold, damp, leaky homes, soldiers on the front line with kit unsuited to deal with the threats they face, and even the renewal of our nuclear deterrent delayed by years. Deliberate austerity decisions. And Ben Wallace stood out in that period. He did what he believed was right for defence in difficult circumstances, and I praise him for his honesty. But his admission, hollowed out underfunded, was an admission that every single one of those Conservative ministers should have made. Our public services, our communities, our industrial base were all hollowed out, all underfunded over those 14 Conservative years. And today, ahead of the budget, the opposition are proposing more of the same. 47 billion in fantasy savings, which they never delivered in government, which means 47 billion of Conservative cuts. They don't learn, but the public do, and the public know the damage the Conservatives did. Deep cuts to our defence budgets, deep cutbacks in our NHS, driven by failed economic policies with low growth, cuts to investment, and the mini-budget. This is the Conservative political playbook. They did it before, they would do it again. And with this Labour government, we are not going back. Because we were elected last year on a promise of change, to halt Britain's decline, to set the foundations for renewal, and to build Britain's future based on greater security and growth. That's why we've chosen the Labour priorities: to fix our health service, to strengthen our defence. We're delivering the change that Conservative ministers did not, and that no Conservative government will. Labour change, powered by Labour values with a vision of future British success. It's in our first year in government. We brought in the largest pay rise our forces have seen for more than 20 years, the biggest increase in defence spending since the end of the Cold War, the end of the worst ever Tory privatisation, bringing back into public ownership 36,000 military family homes, and the deepest reforms to defence in 50 years. And the first of its
Well, that's the Defence Secretary, Geoff Hoon. He is speaking in Downing Street, and this is on the day we've seen this report by a committee of MPs saying we are simply not prepared to defend ourselves if there's an armed strike. Let's talk to the former Labour Defence Secretary, Geoff Hoon. Good morning to you, Mr Hoon.
Good morning, Andrew. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Always good to talk to you. This report is concerning, but it really gets to the heart of the fact defence spending has been neglected by successive governments.
I think that's right. And although when I was Defence Secretary, we had modest increases, they were never as much as I was asking for. So it is the case that all governments, but particularly the last Conservative government, have underfunded defence.
But that's a political choice, isn't it? Because since the 1950s, we've seen the percentage of GDP spent on defence and the percentage spent on health and welfare cross over in the middle. And we've literally swapped defence spending for health and benefits spending. And it's very difficult to see how any government could win an election promising to reverse those two again.
I think it's quite right that we have consistently run down defence spending. Possibly not surprising, given the Second World War, we were faced with a war of national survival. We haven't faced that for a very long time. The Cold War was a very different kind of conflict. I recognise that after 1989, the peace dividend taken by all Western nations following the collapse of the Soviet Union meant that many people assumed, wrongly with the benefit of hindsight, that actually we wouldn't need to spend as much on defence. And in a sense, I came into the job in the Ministry of Defence following that period. I think we've all learned that lesson now. We know that actually defence spending has to be a priority, and it has to compete alongside, as you say, with welfare spending, with education, the health service, all the other competing demands that people make of government. But defence has to be up there as a priority.
Of course, this Labour government does say it will increase defence spending, Mr Hoon, to 3.5% of GDP, but you've got Donald Trump over there in the United States saying it should be way higher, at least 5%. Where do you think it should be, that figure?
Well, I don't always agree with Donald Trump, but nevertheless, on this occasion, I think he's quite right. I think he has been very successful in his forcing European allies to reconsider their spending plans and to increase defence spending. That seems to be happening in all continental European capitals, and we have to play our part as well. So 3 cheers for Donald Trump. He's actually made a difference in this area.
But, Jeff, it also matters what that money is spent on, doesn't it? And I know there are lots of experts that think that far too much is spent on particular contracts. And then the Ukraine war has really forced us to think again about how warfare might be fought in the future. It's not all just about tech and cyber. Actually, munitions, boots on the ground, trench warfare has come back. How much do you think it is a problem that the Ministry of Defence just doesn't really know what to invest in?
I think it's a real challenge for the Minister of Defence. I don't pretend to have easy answers. One of the criticisms is always that we prepare for the last conflict. And certainly in my time, the major threat to the United Kingdom was terrorism coming from overseas onto our shores and onto other countries as well. We prepared lots of forces, rapid reaction forces, to deal with that kind of threat. However, we've seen, particularly today in Ukraine, a return to more conventional fighting, more conventional warfare. And the challenge for the Ministry of Defence is to have capable, agile, but flexible forces that can deal with that range of challenges that the modern world produces. I don't think there's an easy answer, but flexibility, agility, the ability to use our weapons and our forces in different ways is absolutely vital in the modern world.
This report also, Mr. Hoon, and you'll be aware of it because it was a problem when you were Defence Secretary, talks about the problems with defence procurement. The equipment is often too expensive and inefficient, and it talks about the fact our missile capacity is limited. We've got 75 missiles, of which only 19 are operational, which it makes it almost a bit of a laughingstock.
I think it's really important that we invest in our defence industries. That's what John Healey is talking about this morning. I think it's vital that we have onshore capabilities. And again, I always felt as Defence Secretary, when I was spending billions of pounds of taxpayers' money, that I needed to focus on the fact that many of those taxpayers were in the defence industry. And if I bought equipment from overseas, the risk was that I was putting some of our own people who were paying their taxes out of jobs. And therefore, developing our own capable industry is the right way forward. That's no excuse for inefficiency. It's no excuse for wasting money. But at the same time, I think having that sovereign capability in the United Kingdom is the right way forward.
Jeff, do you think that the British public recognises the seriousness of the threats that this country faces? Certainly the generation that grew up in the Second War and in the Cold War would have been familiar with that sense of existential threat. But I think people born since 1980 probably don't really recognise that Britain is under that kind of threat these days.
I think that's the fundamental question, and I think your hesitation is the right one, because I'm not sure yet that people feel that defence is a sufficient priority. They don't perceive a threat to the United Kingdom in the way that they did, certainly in the run-up to the Second World War, when, after all, we declared war on Germany because of an invasion of Poland. And we've seen what's happened in Ukraine, yet we're not quite in the same position as we were in the latter days of the 1930s. So I think you're right. And I think the problem when it comes to spending is that people rightly see a priority in hospitals, in doctors, in schools, in education, in welfare. They have yet, I recognise, to see the priority for defence. That's something the government must change.
All right, that's the former Defence Secretary, Geoff Hoon. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good to talk to you. And this, I mean, the report is shocking. Our army is now the smallest it's been since the Napoleonic War.
Yeah. And that's when we were mainly a naval force at that point, so we didn't have a big army anyway, No, I mean, 77,000.
It's appalling.
Astonishing.
Now, time for the Great British Giveaway. It's festive time. This is your chance to enjoy Christmas on GB News.
This is all the details that you need to win £40,000 in tax-free cash, shopping vouchers and a GB News festive goodie bag.
There's just 2 weeks left to see how you could win your Christmas this year paid for by us. First, we'll give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash so you can have a brilliant new year. Then we'll give you a further £10,000 cash to spend on all your Christmas presents, the decorations, even the tree. Christmas lunch, that's on us too, with £1,000 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite supermarket. Finally, a GB News Christmas goodie bag. And the best news? You'll get it all in time for the big day. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing the 8th of December. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck with that. Well, you've been sending in some pictures of the weather because we're hearing that there is snow in some parts of the country. So this first picture is from Anfield Plain in County Durham.
Wow, that looks really magical.
2 or 3 inches there.
Not much fun if you have to cycle or drive in it, though, but it does look rather lovely.
Lovely.
And Lee Charlton has sent these in to us up early at 6 a.m. We've also had reports from viewers of snow in Potters Bar, Northumberland. There we are.
And even some of our colleagues saying they've seen it outside our GB News office. It sounds more like sleet
it was a
than
bit of
snow.
sleet. Get a grip, you
But I look
GB
forward to
Newsers.
having a look later. Let's have a look also what you've been saying on gbnews.com/your say. Angela says, lots of British-born folk are leaving the country because of the state of our once great country. Folk like myself on the breadline can't even afford food, let alone moving abroad. And that's it, isn't it, Andrew? People might want to go elsewhere, but only the very rich can afford to.
Those inflation figures have dipped this month, but food inflation is up again.
That's right.
And that's where it really hurts.
That's where it really
people.
bites,
And
isn't
energy
it?
bills are up too, of course.
And Anne says, I'm envious of those that are able to up sticks and leave the country. I'm 75, it's no longer an option for me. But should either of my sons decide to do so, I certainly wouldn't try to dissuade them. That is so sad.
Very sad.
No, I hope my children don't decide to leave.
Now, there is a new way to take part in the conversation by becoming a friend of GB News for free. Why don't you take a look?
Join the community and be part of our shows by becoming a friend of GB News. Get a direct line to join the conversations that you hear us talking about every day in our programmes by commenting on Your Say and voting in You Decide polls. Access opinion, analysis and behind-the-scenes videos as we share more from the stories that you see on TV and radio. Plus, watch our shows live and be a part of them.
Up next, why did more than a 250,000 people flee Britain in the year Labour were elected? What if people got an idea?
Well, don't worry, because Stephen Pound, Moneybags, and billionaire broadcaster Mike Parry are staying put. They'll be discussing that much more next. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Very good morning to you, Christine.
Good morning to the pair of you and all the watchers and listeners.
Yeah, absolutely. When you look back...
Oh, you still
got your hat. Well done.
Oh, good on you.
I can't...
I think it's shrunk a bit, but still.
I can't believe it's 23 years ago. Can you?
Well, if you can't, no, nor can I. And people come up to me and say whatever they say, and I usually say, do you realise how long ago that was? Oh, 10 years. What? I said, no, it was 2002. It turned people's view of me completely on its head. And I'd gone into the jungle as one of the most hated women in the country, or disliked, whatever you want to say. And people suddenly saw the real me. And, you know, basically I'm quite nice, I'm fun, I'm kind to animals, you know, and when people get to know the real me, they think, oh, well, she's not this awful old witch that the newspapers have told us she was.
Oh, you're always a battle axe, Christine. You'll always be a battle axe. Come on.
You just have to be yourself. And if yourself, your real self, can't cope with the privations and the boredom, because they deliberately make sure that you're bored most of the time. Don't forget, viewers see a fraction of it. And they also make sure that there's a mix of personalities, so that usually there's there's that sort of stuff going on. But, you know, I have to say, a tad envious. First of all, they're in the Australian sunshine, which would be nice. And I mean, what's not to like about it? You get flown out first class. We went Qantas. I've no idea what. I hope they fly the flag. I had a wonderful time. They flew my other half out because I said, if I'm going to be away for 3 weeks or so, you will have to fly Neil out as well, because otherwise I shall have to put him into care. So they swallowed that.
GB News, the People's Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back. 22 minutes past 10. You're watching Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
We've got the broadcasting journalist Mike Parry here and the former Labour MP Stephen Pound in the studio. Stephen Pound was telling us some very intimate details. You're moving house.
Yes, I'm downsizing. It happens that people...
Are you worried about...
Oh, times are hard.
Is it the mansion tax? Residents in Ealing.
Have you ever been to Hanwell? You know, the closest we ever get to mansion tax is the tube to Mansion House. No,
the mansion tax, I can tell you why it's a con. I don't live in a mansion, but I am going to be paying mansion tax because I live in a penthouse, right?
Yeah.
Now, that's not fair. That's absolutely unfair. You know, all my life I've worked. 50 years I've been paying taxes. Now I'm going to be hammered to pay for other people who are not in work.
But, Mike, on behalf of the nation, may I thank you for your contribution.
I thought you might.
Are you moving into a sheltered housing?
No, I'm not moving to sheltered housing.
Will there be a warden to look after you?
Only on Sea Wing. But no, the thing is, my son's an electrician, my daughter's a teacher. They're both finding it incredibly difficult to actually get on the housing ladder, thanks to years of Tory mismanagement.
Yes.
And so one of the things about downsizing is it actually releases some dosh.
Very good idea.
I can then...
I think you're right, because I, at one time, mused about taking money out of one of my properties. You see what I mean? Equity release. I don't think it's a very safe way to get money. The way it accumulates before you die and have to pay it back is extraordinary. So, Stephen, you're absolutely right. Sell and give the balance to your children.
But the reason we're mentioning property prices, you're moving, is because the inflation figures, inflation has come down from 3.8 to 3.6%.
I don't believe it.
For some time.
We can celebrate that.
One of the main factors is because house prices are falling, and I think they're falling, Steve, because the Chancellor has spooked the markets.
I think
without a shadow of a doubt.
One of the reasons why house prices are falling, the first law of economics is the law of supply and demand. But we should be building many, many more houses than we actually are.
Well, you're supposed to be. That's a Labour manifesto.
I know, absolutely. You know, we've not come to the election yet, but we haven't actually had to cash that check yet. But the reality is, and let's be honest about it, the plans for house building, particularly in London, have simply not lived up to the hype. There's only 2 boroughs.
Stephen, if you follow that logic, house prices would be going up severely because there is more supply. And the truth is that actually the housing market does not follow the laws of supply and demand because it's a broken market.
I totally agree.
Foreign investors, cash buyers.
There's another story this morning that's contributed to this. 257,000 people have left the country. Now, they will have come from the sort of house price bracket that we're talking about here, and therefore the price goes down.
Mike, firstly, no...
A record number of millionaires are living.
Of course they are.
Well, hang on a second. Nobody knows who those 257,000 people are, and only 1,030 people are actually classified as millionaires. But the point you make is much more important, actually, I think, about supply and demand. If you actually go to a place like South Kensington, the Bromptons at night, street after street with not a light on in the house, because the number of people who bought from houses... When we were selling houses in Ealing, when we did a development, I actually interviewed this Chinese family, and I said, thanks for coming over here. I'm very glad you're buying the flat. Is it for you? He said, no, it's for our son. Is it university? I said, oh, how old's your son? They said, he's not born yet. Oh,
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Well, that's been going on for ages. I read,
and that flat was then empty.
But they should have been. But there should be some way of encouraging them, making it financially viable for them to rent it out.
100%, 100%.
Rather than just leaving it in.
Yeah.
Instead of which we did it the other way. Instead of using the carrot, we used the stick. We actually said if it's an empty one, you actually pay extra council tax.
Yeah, but that's what's happening to me. Yeah. Doubled council tax because I've decided now. I 2 properties I own, I've stopped renting them and I've had them refurbished for sale. During the refurbished for sale, they were designated as my second homes. Council tax was doubled, right? I'm now going to sell them, which means there will be 2 less houses to rent out in this country because the tax situation now, for me, a landlord and property investor, is so onerous, I barely break a £1 profit on properties I rent out these days.
But isn't this salutary? And right to what Miriam just said, one of the reasons why the market is broken is because a lot of the buy-to-let landlords who typically bought ex-council property. I mean, council estates around my way, 90% of them were then bought and then were leased out, in some cases leased back to homeless people, which is absolutely ludicrous. But so a lot of those properties are coming onto the market because it's no longer the golden ticket where you can actually buy a property. So I think that the housing market is difficult, but I think bottom line is we're simply not building enough.
But also, you've got this idea that landlords, well, if a tenant wants to have a pet, you've got to let them. Outrageous.
Funny enough, do you know what? I got by that by getting a certificate from my doctor to say I was allergic to cats and dogs, honest to God. And
That's fantastic.
yeah, exactly. Have you ever seen what damage a cat does to a property? Yeah. Years ago, I had a house, and the first time I went around to see it after 6 months, all the curtains had been destroyed by this cat. The cat was urinating on the carpet and all this kind of stuff. So from that moment on, no pets. But the rules are so onerous now. No, you know, I'm smarter than the average bear to find out that you can get the certificate for the allergy. Lots of people don't, so they don't want pets.
Mike, when I was a housing officer in my council years, I was chair of housing. I went to go around to this house as a complaint, and I went into the house and I said, you know, what's this business about you having pets? And I suddenly realised I was standing on an anaconda, and he had these corn snakes. He had 47 snakes in a vivarium.
Oh, God!
And he said, all you said was no cats and dogs. This is flipping snake wrapping its way around my ankle.
To stay on the mansion tax, the reason that Rachel Reeves is said to be considering this is because she wants to put benefits payments up by inflation, which we know, you know, is
6 billion extra on the bill. 6 billion.
What do you think about this? Is it the right thing to increase benefits by inflation, or is that unfair because many working people will not get those kind of payments?
It depends what you mean by benefits. If you mean pensions, then I think
I think pensions is separate because of the triple lock.
Yeah, I appreciate that's a key component. And the idea at the present time we're actually talking about increasing personal independence payments and other benefits, you know, by at the same level as inflation. I don't think that's sustainable. Equally, and I say this as a pensioner, I'm not entirely sure the triple lock is sustainable.
No, also, but to increase PIP, personal independence, when just a few months ago Labour government was trying to cut them.
Exactly. I think there should be fiscal drag in reverse for benefits. You see what I mean? I think that
you should pay less tax.
As people are being dragged up into higher tax brackets, I think those receiving benefits should be told that's frozen as well, and you will not get a percentage rise, which is costing £6 billion. All the country, broadest shoulders and all that, well, broadest shoulders, in my view, include people who live off benefits. They must suffer with the rest of us.
I think it's very sensible, because that would get some of them back to work.
Exactly.
Because they're no longer, the benefits is not going to benefit them.
Exactly. You turn up and say, look, I want another 6% because that's what inflation's done over the years. Say, no, sorry, you're frozen now on that for the next 3 years. I bet you're right. I bet pretty damn quickly people will be heading down to the job centre.
Well,
it's a great idea.
Can I just pray in aid a very famous Conservative spokesperson and philosopher, that's Matthew Parris, who had a very, very good article in the Times on Monday.
I saw that.
And it said it's time to actually stop the gravy train. And he talked about gaming the system for PIP. And I could hardly believe... I mean, Matthew Parris, I think, you know, we can respect him. He's a very respected judge. He was a Conservative MP. He was, you know, much a One Nation Conservative.
Left centre Tory, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyway, I've got a lot of respect for him. But he actually talked about how they game the system. And now, I think the point is about perverse incentives.
Give an example of how they did it, what he told us.
But he's talking about basically people would ring up and say, look, I'm too depressed to come into work today. You know, and then the firm would say, well, you know, we're not going to employ you. They then go and sign on and say, I've been sacked because of depression. And, you know, I mean, the most egregious examples, as you know, the ones about acne and things like that. But the problem is, it's like backache and mental illness are almost impossible to
diagnose.
And people game. Now, I don't think any of us four could imagine if there's anything desirable about getting £78.50 a week to sit on the sofa and watch daytime television. I don't think we could. However, there are some people who do.
Yeah,
and I just find that bizarre. But we've got to stop that.
Yeah, but they're not going to stop it. They've already indicated that the old 2 children cap is being lifted. Now, you know that will benefit. For instance, people from cultures like Ireland, people from Asian cultures, they have lots of children, and they'll be encouraged to have more children because it's not just the money they get for the child. They get, isn't it an escalator on benefits the bigger the family gets?
You already get more. That already exists. You already get more housing benefit per child. So actually, the additional benefit per child is not actually that significant. But yeah, it's all part of the same.
And you need a bigger house and all that kind of stuff.
That already happens.
But that's what I mean. They're extenuating it. You know.
Can I just say, as the son of an Irish nurse and one of 9 children, of whom 6 are still alive, I mean, I don't think anybody makes that particular choice. And I'm not entirely sure.
And also, it is not true that there are lots of people having lots of children anymore.
Well, the population is declining catastrophically.
And there's no ethnic group that has a birth rate that's above replacement. There are ethnic groups that have higher birth rates.
Really?
That's absolutely true. There are ethnic groups that have higher birth rates than native Brits. That is true. But no ethnic group has, every single group in this country is below.
Well, it's interesting. Every Wednesday morning, my wife works down the food bank, and sometimes I come down there. And as you know, they dish out the food in proportion to the size of the family. And when she had her 4th family with over 10 children, now they all happen to come from one particular community. They're all Somali families, but 10 children.
Yeah, unbelievable. And can somebody ask me? Right, I've been paying tax for 50 years, and in the last 30 years, I've been a high rate taxpayer. I haven't got any children. Nobody came to me and said, look, Mr. Parry, you're going to pay a bit more tax, so lots of other people can have lots more children.
Children
are looking after you.
No, they won't. No, they won't.
Well, they are paying tax that will benefit
hang on, Miriam. You don't realise how old I am.
Heart.
What I'm saying is, if they put it up now, I'll be paying for families to say, oh, we can have another child now. That child's not going to stop earning money and paying tax till it's 18.
The essential problem we have in this country is that people are not having enough children. Now, we can have an argument about how we make it easier for people and which people to have children. That's fair. But this
and who should pay for the children?
But this idea that I shouldn't pay for other people to have children, frankly, is what's got us into this mess in the first place.
No, I don't agree. I don't agree.
It is, because you may not need it, but you will get a pension and healthcare in old age, regardless of whether or not you have children.
But look at Japan.
We're going to resume this conversation because we have to go to the headlines with Sam Francis.
Very good morning, 10:33, the top story. The UK must step up to a more dangerous world, John Healey has said, revealing a Russian spy ship has been sitting on the edge of UK waters. The Antar, designed to map undersea cables, allegedly shone lasers at RAF pilots amid rising incursions, drone disruptions and 90,000 cyber attacks on UK systems. Inflation has dipped to 3.6%, the last reading before next week's budget. Rachel Reeves says it is good news. The Conservatives accuse Labour of fuelling higher prices. Meanwhile, opposition parties and campaign groups are urging the Chancellor to target the wealthy instead of broad tax rises in her budget. Rachel Reeves is reportedly considering higher property taxes on the most valuable homes. US lawmakers have overwhelmingly voted to force the release of Justice Department's Epstein files. Donald Trump has dropped his opposition, but Republican critics say the issue has now torn MAGA apart. Breaking in the last hour or so, at least 16 people are confirmed dead in one of Russia's deadliest attacks in months, hitting Ternopil, Lviv and Kharkiv. Ukraine says more than 470 drones, 47 missiles caused fires, blackouts and mass casualties. It comes as Zelensky heads to Turkey for fresh peace talks. And Scotland are heading to their first World Cup in 28 years after a dramatic 4-2 win over Denmark. Captain Andy Clark called it one of the greatest nights of my life. Wales keep their hopes alive after smashing North Macedonia 7-1. Those are the half-past headlines. A full roundup at 11.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Now, Ned, can you believe it? The bin strike in Birmingham started in March, still hasn't been resolved and could go until next year. And now the agency workers brought in to help out, they're going on strike too. God. You couldn't make it up. This is in our second city. It's shameful. This is Britain's Newsroom and GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's certainly a cold day for all of us. Arctic winds bringing snow showers to some parts of the United Kingdom, but not all parts. It's going to be sunny in many areas rather than snowy. Having said that, we do have a little feature clearing the southeast first thing, bringing a mix of rain, sleet and snow in parts of the southeast. Once that's out of the way by lunchtime, we've just got this straight northerly wind bringing air directly from the North Pole and making it feel particularly cold. Temperatures at a maximum of 6 or 7 degrees, but add on the wind and you can take off a few degrees from that temperature in terms of the feels like, and that wind certainly bringing frequent showers, and these showers almost entirely consisting of snow away from immediate coast. That snow really building up across northern Scotland. We're talking about 5 to 10 centimetres over modest hills and 20 to 30 centimetres by the end of Thursday over 300 metres. Likewise, I think Northern Ireland seeing a mix of rain and sleet showers, but the Sperrins likely to see a snow covering. North East England seeing some significant snow accumulations. Most likely the North York Moors getting quite a pasting, 20 centimetres in some places above 200 to 300 metres. Likewise, West Wales and the southwest continue to see showers coming in from the Irish Sea. Parts of Pembrokeshire, a very localised part, could see 10 centimetres of snow. Bodmin Moor, likewise a few centimetres. Away from the higher ground towards the southwest and northeastern parts of the UK where we've got rain or sleet showers, it's going to be icy first thing Thursday, a widespread frost across the UK, so some slippery surfaces around, but actually away from the coasts, away from the northeast and the far southwest, we do have plenty of bright skies and dry weather through the Midlands, the southeast, southwest Scotland, for example, but wherever you are, it's going to continue to feel very cold.
Thank you, Britain, for sharing over 5 million comments on your say, because when you talk, we listen.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. Significant delays today include the A9 restricted between Tormore and Dunbeath due to an incident. Drivers should proceed with caution. On the A55 eastbound, the Dolphin Slip Road is closed in Holywell. Diversions are available. In Hertfordshire, 2 lanes are closed on the A1M northbound between junction 4 and 6, causing 40-minute delays. Hampshire's A34 southbound is congested between the A272 and the M3 junction, and on the trains, northern buses replace trains between Corkickle and Whitehaven, and there is disruption between Newport, South Wales and Hereford with Transport for Wales. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
It's 22 minutes to 11. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom.
Can you believe it? In Birmingham, the strike is continuing, the rubbish strike. It's been going on since March, with a warning now the rubbish could be piling up until May next year, when there are actually, Miriam, local elections, which will be very bad news for Labour that runs that council.
Well, hundreds of members of the Unite union in Birmingham have been on all-out strike since March. This is in a dispute over pay and jobs, as our second city awaits a resolution between Birmingham Council and the union.
Joined now by the National Lead Officer for Unite, Onay Kassab. Onay, good morning to you.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on.
This is shameful. This is shameful. This is our second city. This strike has dragged on since March. It involves only a handful of people. How can you justify it?
Well, look, you are absolutely right. It is shameful. And just to correct you, it doesn't involve a handful of people. We have all of the drivers at Birmingham City Council who face a pay cut of £8,000. So it's moved on considerably since the start of the strike. And what's happened now is that those agency workers who were brought in by Birmingham City Council to try and break the strike And you would think that Birmingham City Council would treat these workers really, really well, but it's actually the opposite. We've been told about a toxic atmosphere at work, breaches of serious health and safety. And don't forget, as well as a dirty job, this is a dangerous job as well. We have had people involved in accidents at the back of vehicles. A couple of years ago, somebody died as a result. There are serious health and safety breaches taking place at work and people being threatened that unless they work unsafely, then they're told that they will no longer have a job. We've also got threats of blacklisting, where people are told if you join a trade union, take part in trade union activity, then you can forget about having a job. So it's not surprising that those workers now as well have voted for strike action.
Can I ask how the workers can afford to be on strike for so long if they've been on strike since March? Is the union paying them strike pay, which matches close to their salary?
Oh, and you make an excellent point. Our strike pay is not close to their salary, so our members are making a significant sacrifice. But that's because they know that unless they do something about what is taking place now, then the sacrifice becomes a permanent sacrifice of £8,000 a year. So just like many disputes, people are making a sacrifice now in the immediate to try and secure their futures.
Has the council made any offers to you at all to meet in the middle or to improve conditions?
Well, we've said to the council that we are willing to sit down and negotiate at any point. Where this all ended, if you like, as far as discussions was concerned, was ACAS negotiations in May. We thought we'd come to a ballpark agreement at the end of those negotiations in May. The council were going to go off and get it written up. Instead, they came back and withdrew the offer. The council withdrew their own offer that they made us, and since then, they have refused to meet with us to resolve the dispute.
But they say you've rejected the offer.
No, just to be absolutely clear, we came to a ballpark figure with ACAS in the room, so it wasn't us,
That's the conciliation service.
Absolutely, excuse me, using the abbreviations, yes. They were in the room, they made a ballpark, we came to a ballpark agreement with ACAS in the room. The council were then going to go away, write it up, come back to us, talk further. Instead, they withdrew it.
Now, I understand that this started with an equal pay claim made by some female council workers, but because the council couldn't afford to raise those workers' pay, they decided to put down the bin workers' pay instead to achieve equality. But which sounds crazy on the face of it, but we all know that Birmingham City Council is in severe financial trouble. Do you accept that perhaps they just cannot afford to meet your demands?
But you've made an excellent point. First of all, our demands, just to be clear, are not for more pay for these guys. They're to stop a pay cut. Yeah. When we talk about equal pay for women, I agree, we need equal pay for women. But as a result of this, the hourly rate for women, as a result of the actions taken against the refuse workers, the hourly rate for women workers doesn't go up. All that happens is we effectively have a levelling down. And on affordability, the council gave an astronomical figure of some 750 million that they said was originally the cost of equal pay. That's now been drastically reduced to around 250 million. We've also got KC advice, as you would expect, that says that this dispute can be resolved without impacting on further equal pay claims. And lastly, on the point of cost, it has now cost the council more money to try and break the strike than it has cost to resolve it. Now, we estimate that we're near to around sort of 20 million it's going to end up costing them. When you take everything into account, the fact that they're not getting revenue anymore from recycling, etc., the cost of agency, the cost of bringing in other contractors to try and cover the strike, it's cost them more to try and break it than to resolve it. It is crazy, and to come back to your point at the start, that's why it is shameful. It's unnecessary.
Can I just say very briefly, because we're under pressure on time here, Onay, this is a Labour council. Unite traditionally has supported the Labour Party. It's given millions of pounds to the Labour Party over the years. You're not surprised that somebody big hitter in the cabinet, somebody perhaps who's in charge of Labour government, hasn't knocked heads together in the council to get this sorted out? Because I suspect Labour will pay a very heavy price for this at the May local elections next year.
Again, I find myself agreeing with GB News, even coming from a trade union. Look, you're absolutely right. An awful lot of our members are saying, why is the union continuing to be affiliated to a Labour Party where we've got a Labour council under a Labour government that is cutting workers' pay by up to £8,000 a year? And look, the reality is that they've already lost a by-election a couple of weeks ago. There are elections coming up in May next year. And really, the Labour Party need to think on and act sharp.
All right. That's on Ed Kassab, National Lead Officer for Unite the Trade Union. Thanks so much for joining us.
Well, a spokesperson for Birmingham City Council said, while we're disappointed that the dispute has not been resolved as Unite has rejected all our offers, we're continuing to make regular waste collections and our contingency plan is working.
We have been collecting an average approximately of 1,330 tonnes of curbside waste every day, more than we did prior to industrial action, and over the last 6 months we have collected over 100,000 tonnes of curbside waste. Honestly.
And
still on strike, for God's sake.
In another statement, the recruitment agency Job and Talent said Job and Talent remains firmly committed to operating with transparency, integrity and full compliance with employment laws. We prioritise the rights, welfare and safety of our workers and maintain regular communication to ensure they feel supported.
I wonder what the Birmingham residents think. I think we can probably work that out. Now, up next, would you welcome women-only carriages on trains? Find out why France are poised to introduce them.
But first, if you're in search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you're looking to escape the cold weather in the UK, your best bet is Greece, where it will be warmer than average, albeit with some heavy showers. Cold, meanwhile, across Iberia, and that's because the same northerly winds affecting the UK over the next few days will bring colder than average weather to Spain, to Portugal. Just 9 degrees there in Barcelona. A band of rain through the Balearics into Italy, as well as parts of Greece. This actually intensifies during Friday and the weekend with some very wet weather across Central Europe.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What we're going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say.
There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
And some breaking news. Anthony Williams has been charged with further offences following his arrest over the stabbing spree on a high-speed train in Cambridgeshire earlier this month. British Transport Police say further charges include the attempted murder of a 14-year-old boy in Peterborough. Let's talk to Mark White, who is our Home and Security Editor. Mark, tell us more.
Yeah, Anthony Williams was already facing 10 counts of attempted murder with regard to the stabbings on that train. It was the LNER service from Doncaster to London on the 1st of November into the evening when that stabbing took place, and also related to some other incidents in the day or so before the stabbing took place. Well, after further investigations and the gathering of evidence, the Crown Prosecution Service has now authorised further charges. I'll read you some of the statement. This has come from Siobhan Blake, who is the Chief Crown Prosecutor for the West Midlands. She said, we've decided to prosecute Anthony Williams with 2 counts of attempted murder and 1 count of attempted wounding with intent to cause grievous bodily harm. These relate to separate incidents involving 2 men and a 14-year-old boy near Henry Penn Walk in Peterborough on the 31st of October this year. We've also, it says, authorised a charge of theft in relation to knives that were taken from an Asda supermarket in Stevenage, as well as possession of a bladed article in a fray. And the incident of a fray follows an incident at a barber shop. You might remember there was some video that purported to show Anthony Williams entering a barber shop and allegedly threatening people with a knife. That was in Queen's Walk, Peterborough, on that same day. A further charge, according to the Crown Prosecution Service, of common assault has also been authorised in relation to an incident on a train travelling between Hitchin and Biggleswade to Peterborough on Saturday the 1st of November. These additional charges follow an investigation by the British Transport Police. Now, the Crown Prosecution Service say that this man will appear in court today in Peterborough later today, 2 o'clock this afternoon, to face these additional charges. So an ongoing investigation, a horrible incident that unfolded on that LNER service from Doncaster down to London. And then, of course, in the days that followed, the information that came to light of a number of other alleged offences involving Anthony Williams, involving a knife, stabbings, threatening to stab people. So that has now been added to the indictment. That is what he will go to Crown Court at some point and face a trial on.
All right, that's Mark White. Thank you for that, our Home and Security Editor. Remember that case very well. Now, still ahead, the Defence Secretary John Healey says we've entered an era of new threats.
While MPs warn that we're not ready for an attack. Are you worried? We'll be discussing that all later, and plenty more to come. But you're watching Britain's Newsroom. We are live across the UK on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Britain's favourite morning show. Can we get to say that? Because we are.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's certainly a cold day for all of us. Arctic winds bringing snow showers to some parts of the United Kingdom, but not all parts. It's going to be sunny in many areas rather than snowy. Having said that, we do have a little feature clearing the southeast first thing, bringing a mix of rain, sleet and snow in parts of the southeast. Once that's out of the way by lunchtime, we've just got this straight northerly wind bringing air directly from the North Pole and making it feel particularly cold. Temperatures at a maximum of 6 or 7 degrees, but add on the wind and you can take off a few degrees from that temperature in terms of the feels like, and that wind certainly bringing frequent showers, and these showers almost entirely consisting of snow away from immediate coast. That snow really building up across northern Scotland. We're talking about 5 to 10 centimetres over modest hills and 20 to 30 centimetres by the end of Thursday over 300 metres. Likewise, I think Northern Ireland seeing a mix of rain and sleet showers, but the Sperrins likely to see a snow covering. North East England seeing some significant snow accumulations. Most likely the North York Moors getting quite a pasting, 20 centimetres in some places above 200 to 300 metres. Likewise, West Wales and the southwest continue to see showers coming in from the Irish Sea. Parts of Pembrokeshire, a very localised part, could see 10 centimetres of snow. Bodmin Moor, likewise a few centimetres. Away from the higher ground towards the southwest and northeastern parts of the UK where we've got rain or sleet showers, it's going to be icy first thing Thursday, a widespread frost across the UK, so some slippery surfaces around, but actually away from the coasts, away from the northeast and the far southwest, we do have plenty of bright skies and dry weather through the Midlands, the southeast, southwest Scotland, for example, but wherever you are, it's going to continue to feel very cold.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
There's just 2 weeks left to see how you could win your Christmas this year paid for by us. First, we'll give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash. Then we'll give you a further £10,000 cash to spend on all your Christmas presents, even the tree. Christmas lunch, that's on us too, with £1,000 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite supermarket. Finally, a GB News Christmas goodie bag. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
It's 11 o'clock on Wednesday, the 19th of November, live across the UK. Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Capes.
Well, is there an exodus of Brits? 250,000 people left the UK in the year that Labour were elected. Are you one of them?
A major report from MPs warns Britain is ill-prepared to defend itself against attacks and, of course, we're facing those renewed threats from Russia and China.
And MI5 warns that Chinese spies are attempting to recruit MPs. Here's the Security Minister, Dan Jarvis.
Our intelligence agencies have warned that China is attempting to recruit and cultivate individuals with access to sensitive information about Parliament and the UK government.
And inflation has eased for the first time in 5 months to 3.6% for the crunch budget. Food inflation is still going up. Chancellor Rachel Reeves, however, seemed ecstatic.
I do recognise that there's more that we need to do to tackle the cost of living challenges, and that's why one of the 3 priorities in my budget next week is to tackle the cost of living.
Well, shortly, Kemi Badenoch will take on the Prime Minister at PMQs. From midday, we'll have all the build-up.
And in America, Congress has voted to release all the remaining Jeffrey Epstein files, as there are now growing calls for Andrew Mountbatten Windsor to testify in the United States. Sticking with stateside news.
Yes, that was the US President Donald Trump snapping at a female reporter, telling her to be quiet, piggy, as he answers questions about Jeffrey Epstein on Air Force One.
It's certainly a cold day for all of us. Arctic winds bringing snow showers to some parts of the United Kingdom.
So that cold snap is here. The Met Office warns snow could bring power cuts and travel disruption across the country in autumn's first major cold spell.
And Scotland have qualified for the 2026 World Cup by beating Denmark 4-2 at Hampden Park. It's their first time in 30 years, so a big well done to the Tartan Army.
Well, some mischievous soul in the gallery says, ask Miriam who her favourite Scottish player is, because she'll have no idea. I'm afraid I couldn't, because I wouldn't have a clue either.
I'm afraid I don't know the name.
I know the name of the manager, but it's only because it was up on the autocue, Steve Clark. But what I do know, because I googled it, Denmark are seeded 20th in international football, Scotland nearer 40th. So they played. It was a big victory and a big win, and I'm thrilled they're there. And apparently Wales could qualify too. And what if Northern Ireland did as well? All 4 in the World Cup final.
That would be very exciting.
Very exciting.
And it would be amazing to have all those celebrations.
Yeah.
I don't think that the Scots have ever made it past the first round. But even in the first round, you do get 4 or 5 matches, don't you?
Yeah.
Betraying our lack of knowledge here.
I won't be watching.
Should probably move on.
I won't be watching. I'll watch if we get to the semi-finals. That's England.
Absolutely.
Oh, if Scotland got to semi-finals, I'd watch.
Absolutely.
Do you remember when Andy Murray was asked about...
would he support?
And he said anyone but England.
Yeah. No, there is such rivalry, isn't there?
Because he's Scottish. And, of course, did Andy Murray not realise who was on the Murray Mount at Wimbledon? Mainly English man. Let us know your thoughts on all our talking points today.
Here's the news with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you from the newsroom just after 11 o'clock. The top story this hour, the UK must step up in a far more dangerous world. That's the warning from the Defence Secretary today as he revealed a Russian spy ship is sitting on the edge of UK waters. He says the Yantar, designed to map undersea cables, was tracked by the RAF and Royal Navy and even directed lasers at British pilots. Mr Healy says it's part of a wider surge in global threats, including drone disruptions over Europe, Russian incursions into NATO airspace and 90,000 cyber attacks on the UK's defence systems. In other news, the UK inflation rate has dipped to its lowest level in 4 months, dropping to 3.6% as easing energy costs take the pressure off household bills. Economists say the sharper-than-expected fall puts a pre-Christmas rate cut firmly on the table. That's despite food prices creeping back up, especially bread, cereals and meat. The ONS says slowing gas and electricity rises were the biggest factor behind the drop, even as families are still feeling the squeeze. Well, that comes as Rachel Reeves is facing a growing chorus urging her to tax the rich as she finalises next week's budget. The Chancellor is expected to raise revenue to fill a multi-billion-pound gap, but has reportedly ruled out an income tax hike. Opposition parties, campaign groups and the Greens say she should target the wealthiest households instead. They're calling for a new wealth tax, tougher capital gains rules and higher levies on the most expensive properties. Labour-friendly think tank the IPPR says Rachel Reeves should pick the right fight, taxing what it calls unfair advantages and profits before taxing and turning to wider rises for working families. Police have charged a 32-year-old man with a series of new attempted murder offences linked to a mass stabbing on a train in Huntingdon earlier this month. Anthony Williams from Peterborough now faces accusations of trying to kill a 14-year-old boy and a 22-year-old man and attempting to seriously injure another, all in separate incidents across Peterborough on the same day. He's also charged with common assault on board a train between Hitching and Biggleswade on top of the counts already authorised over that Huntingdon attack. Williams is due before Peterborough Magistrates Court this afternoon. In Washington, both the House and Senate have now voted to force the Justice Department to release its files on Jeffrey Epstein. Over the weekend, President Trump reversed his opposition and urged Republicans to back the full disclosure. It means the Attorney General must now release all unclassified records on Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell within 30 days, though sensitive material can still be withheld to protect victims or any active investigations. The push follows a new wave of leaked documents mentioning Donald Trump, which the White House insists shows no wrongdoing. In Ukraine, at least 16 people have been killed in a major fresh wave of Russian strikes on the west of the country, one of the deadliest attacks in months. Explosions tore through Ternopil, Lviv and parts of Kharkiv, injuring dozens, with rescuers warning many could still be trapped under the rubble. Ukrainian officials say Russia launched more than 470 drones and 47 missiles overnight, sparking fires, blackouts and a rapid response from two NATO neighbours, Poland and Romania. They scrambled jets. President Zelensky, meanwhile, is travelling to Turkey for fresh talks aimed at reviving efforts to end the ongoing war. Here, snow is blanketing parts of the UK this morning, with freezing conditions causing tricky travel and risks of delays on the roads. The Met Office has issued multiple yellow weather warnings for snow and ice in force for today, and a more severe amber warning kicking in tomorrow. Cold health alerts are also active across England until Saturday, warning of significant risks for vulnerable people. Authorities are urging everyone to keep warm, to take care on the roads and check in on friends, family and neighbours. And in the sports, Scotland now heading to their first World Cup in 28 years after a stunning 4-2 win over Denmark at Hampden. Fans flooded the streets as Steve Clarke's side scored twice in stoppage time, sealing a top spot and a place in next summer's finals in North America. First Minister John Swinney called it a joy to watch, while Andy Murray posted, "Never in doubt, North America, here we come." Well, manager Steve Clarke praised the fantastic Tartan Army, saying that the crowd could smell the magic as Scotland made history. Those are the latest headlines for now. I'll be back with you in half an hour.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Hello, good morning and welcome. You're watching Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates. Well, let's have a look what you've been saying on gbnews.com/your say. Janet says, Trump probably said piggy because she was trying to hog the questions. Not a big deal. But Steve does say no need for that piggy comment. I think it was rude.
Of course rude.
No need to speak to people like that. You can just say, I don't want to answer your question.
Yeah.
And on Birmingham, on the bin strikes, of course, we've been covering, Jack says the government should send groups of unemployed with some vans and clear the streets of Birmingham and take it all to the tip. I mean, how much did they say? 100,000 tonnes they've collected since...
It's incredible.
Oh,
I think it's a national disgrace.
A load of rubbish.
It's a national disgrace. Now, There's a brand new way to take part in the conversation by becoming a friend of GB News for free. Take a look.
Join the community and be part of our shows by becoming a friend of GB News. Get a direct line to join the conversations that you hear us talking about every day in our programmes by commenting on Your Say and voting in You Decide polls. Access opinion, analysis and behind-the-scenes videos as we share more from the stories that you see on TV and radio. Plus, watch our shows live and on catch-up anywhere, anytime. If you love our channel, become a friend of GB News for free by scanning the QR code or going to gbnews.com/friend. Don't just watch our programmes, come and be a part of them.
Well, on with today's news. MI5 has warned MPs and political advisers that Chinese spies are actively trying to recruit them.
So after a year-long inquiry by the Commons Defence Committee found that Labour is moving too slowly in the face of new threats from Russia and China.
We're joined now by Conservative MP for Tunbridge and Malling, Tom Tugendhat MP. Tom, thank you so much for joining us this morning. I think we are becoming increasingly aware of the espionage activities of China, but this is still very shocking, the direct attempts to recruit MPs.
Yeah, look, it's pretty grim, frankly. This is something that the Chinese have been trying for a while. Let's be honest, this isn't new. We know that Barry Gardner's office somehow received £500,000 worth of donations from a woman connected to the so-called United Front Work Department, which is a branch of the Chinese Communist Party. And we know that the Chinese have been trying to recruit people in business and government and no doubt in Parliament over many, many years. But this warning is a pretty stark reminder that it's going on. You know, China is not our friend, I'm afraid.
Anything.
And of course, there was the trial potentially of somebody who was operating in Parliament, working for one of your colleagues and a fellow researcher, it collapsed because of we still haven't got to the bottom of why that trial collapsed. And the Speaker in the Commons yesterday, you'd have heard him saying how angry and disappointed he was that this trial never took place.
Yeah, well, the Speaker's right. I mean, you know, whatever side you believe, not to have even managed to get it to trial, frankly, doesn't say anything good about the government's ability to defend the interests of the British people, does it? I mean, frankly, I'm now constantly asking myself whose side they're on, because you find yourself again and again coming up against the bureaucracy of the state, which this government has no interest in changing, and meaning that we are always put second best. Now, this is not the way to run a country, you know, particularly when we know that our enemies, China, Russia, you know, and others, Iran, are trying to do us really serious harm. You know, they're spying on us. Russia has committed sabotage in the United Kingdom. Iran has attempted to murder people in the United Kingdom. You know, we need to be serious, and I'm afraid this government just isn't.
And is it, do you suspect, as crude as a calculation of we do not want to offend China because we're desperate to do a trade deal with them?
Well, I mean, you saw Rachel Reeves and her absolutely pathetic trip to Beijing. She came back with a promise of £600 million of investment over 5 years. That's £120 million a year. I mean, seriously, it's a joke. I mean, the United States invests £580 billion a year, according to trade figures. You know, China's investment in the UK is 0.2% of our trade investment. I mean, come on. And there she is, scraping and crawling like some sort of, well, I won't finish that sentence, but you know what I mean, in order to try and, you know, make herself look good. Well, she looks pathetic, and she looks pathetic because she can't add up. She doesn't understand Britain's values, and she's not willing to defend our country. Well, she's in the wrong job.
But Tom, the warmth of the British government towards China really took off in 2010 under David Cameron and George Osborne. And it could be argued that it's actually now too late to disentangle ourselves from China. We're so reliant on them for students to come to our universities. We're so reliant on them for steel. They're even big investors in our nuclear power. How can we possibly retract?
Well, first of all, something big changed in 2013, which was the arrival of Chairman Xi. Right? A new leader in China changed the tone in China and led to a different outcome. Now, personally, I've always been extremely cautious of China and the CCP because I'm always very, very wary of communists and dictatorships. But the reality is that Beijing in 2010 was not Beijing in 2020. And the bets that were made then, they were reasonable. I think they were mistaken, but they were reasonable. The bets that this government is making in 2025, after 15 years of lessons, are frankly extraordinary. They suggest either willful ignorance or complete stupidity, but they do not suggest a government that is actually responding to the will and the interests of the British people. They suggest, on the contrary, people who have got into the sort of bureaucratic track that some ministers get into, where they're simply not willing to say boo to a goose, and they've forgotten that they're supposed to represent the British people and not just obey their civil servants. And I'm afraid that's exactly what we're seeing out of this government. It's just, they might as well not be there, frankly. I mean, the civil service is running it anyway. I mean, why bother paying the politicians?
Very briefly, should we abandon the plans for a Chinese super embassy in the old Royal Mint building, when there's that fear expressed by you and our colleagues that it could be used as a hub of spying?
Andrew, look, I mean, we know that the Chinese are spying here, and on one level, one shouldn't take it too personally. After all, we run some of the finest intelligence services in the world, so it'd be a little bit hypocritical. It's our job to defend the British people, and if people are going to do it here, we should damn well expose them and stand up for ourselves. Yeah. And this is one of those moments where I keep hearing from the government that, oh, well, it's a quasi-judicial process. Rubbish. Stand up for Britain, tell us what's in our interests, and actually defend it. Do you really think that it's in our interest to have the Tower of London, that great symbol of English independence, going all the way back, in a way, to the Romans, but really to William the Conqueror, overshadowed by a Chinese embassy? What kind of a message do you think that sends to people who want to invest in the UK? Seriously, you think that's in our interest? I don't. If you really, really think it's in our interest, go out there, be proud, say it. You don't. You're a wimp. They're all too weak, too spineless, and too gutless. Frankly, they should make decisions. If they don't want to make a decision, get out of the way and stop pretending you're in charge. Hand it over to the judges and the bureaucrats. After all, they're who's got their hand up your backs anyway and telling you what to say.
Well, Tom Tugendhat's definitely not pulling his punches there. Thank you very much for joining us. And a spokesman for the government confirmed that they do actually have spies. So there you go.
Yeah, exactly. Chinese embassy spokesman said accusations of espionage were fabrication. Oh, really? I think that statement probably was. Time for the Rachel's Goods giveaway now. It's a Christmassy one, isn't it?
It is. Your chance to enjoy Christmas on us, £40,000 in tax-free cash, shopping vouchers and Andrew to cook your dinner.
There's just 2 weeks left to see how you could win your Christmas this year paid for by us. First, we'll give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash so you can have a brilliant new year. Then we'll give you a further £10,000 cash to spend on all your Christmas presents, the decorations, even the tree. Christmas lunch, that's on us too, with £1,000 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite supermarket. Finally, a GB News Christmas goodie bag. And the best news? You'll get it all in time for the big day. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing the 8th of December. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, coming up next, Angela Rayner almost joined the cast in Australia for this year's I'm a Celebrity. Find out why it didn't happen.
I so wish it had have. And we'll be going through that and more with the former Labour MP Stephen Pound and the broadcaster Mike Parry. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back, 22 minutes past 11. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
They're back, Statler and Waldorf, Mike Parry and former Labour MP Stephen Powell.
What should we start with?
Well, I want to pay tribute to the Queen, Queen Camilla, because I believe she has saved the betting industry in this country. I truly believe that, OK? So at an audience between Queen and King and Sir Keir Starmer...
dinner, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Keir Starmer and Lady Starmer. Is it Lady Vic? Is that her name? Yeah, and she herself, a horse racing fan. The first picture we saw of her after the election was at a race meeting.
And it was a freebie.
A freebie, absolutely right.
Was to go, but it was a freebie.
The story we're reading, at the moment it's a diary story, but I think it will be firmed up, is that a sufficient conversation took place between the monarch and the Prime Minister, which was passed on to Rachel Reeves, which may now result in horse racing betting levy not being increased, but the machines will maybe have an increased tax levy on them, because at the moment it's... Well, according to Gordon Brown, it's very low. I don't think it should be taxed at all.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that will save the racing industry. I was terrified we were going to see the end of things like the Cheltenham Festival, the end of the Grand National, because that would have happened if they put more taxes on one of the most successful industries in this country. World-leading, produces profit and employs about 400,000 people.
Mike, a couple of things. First of all, Cheltenham and Goodwood and that, they wouldn't collapse. It's nothing to do with actually off-course betting. Don't forget, you get big prizes for winning that. But the key thing here is what we used to call FOB-Ts, the fixed odds betting terminals.
Yes.
FOB-Ts, you remember when we were in the House? They were called the crack cocaine of gambling. Those are the ones I think we should actually be hammering. In my high street, where I live in West London, you've got... it's not just all Turkish barbers, it's also betting shops. And the betting shop, it's not about horse racing, it's not about the
No, but it was going to be. No, Stephen, you're up with things. You know they're going to increase the betting levy on courses, right? Now, that would have resulted in bookmakers going bust. It would have resulted in underground gambling.
Have you ever seen a poor bookmaker? Who is the richest woman in this country?
Yes, well, that's Denise Coates, who owns Bet365 and pays herself 220 million a year.
She earns more than Queen Camilla.
Which she deserves. But what I'm saying is, I do believe that it was yet another attack on what I call Britishness, OK? It's a very British institution.
It's Irishness, if it's anything. Who's all the racecourse? They're either from Dubai or from Dublin.
And Labour also hate people in the countryside, and of course horse racing is... Well, of course they do. They're trying to get rid of farmers because they hate the people in the country.
Stephen, there isn't a Labour MP now hardly would not tell you it was a mistake to go after farmers for the inheritance tax, for the grief it's caused the government.
Absolutely.
The grief it's caused for voters to raise such... in the terms of government spending, a relatively small amount.
But farmers taking their lives. Farmers actually taking their lives.
Not a single farmer has taken their lives.
I'm sorry, I've read...
That was before it came in.
Hang on, I've read of an inquest report from a coroner which said that the farmer was so depressed about the prospect of the future taxes he had to pay, he took his own life.
Yeah, well, that was before it was even... But look, the reality is, I remember the Daily Telegraph before the last election saying, why on earth are we allowing these people to get away with these massive tax fiddles? And look at Jeremy Clarkson said, why did he buy a farm? Because costs so I could avoid tax.
Yeah, that's about 1%.
What we should have done,
1%.
we should have concentrated on those people who they call the barley barons, and the Welsh Hill
they're
farmers.
Not farmers anyway.
Well, hang on a second. The small farmers, the people, particularly like the Welsh Hill farmers, they should have been protected, and I think there will be an exemption.
And on these machines of yours, by the way, sorry, Andrew,
fob teas.
A lot of small pubs rely on those machines in their bars to generate money to keep the bar going. Believe me. And if they're killed off, we're going to lose more pubs.
I'm sorry. What we're seeing around my way is that these 24-hour-a-day, 7-day a week. Now these casinos are coming.
But they're not pubs.
I'm sorry.
They're arcades.
Because
they're arcades.
Can I go back to the story? I'd love to have been a fly on the wall when the Prime Minister came back from dinner at Balmoral.
Exactly. You probably were.
I need a word. You're no longer doing the betting levy because Her Majesty doesn't want it, and we want set up.
One thinks back to the time
when Majesty.
Having abolished the hereditary peers, they're still taking notes from the monarchy.
Isn't it a bit like when Margaret Thatcher was in? Somebody said, "We've got this marvellous idea for a national lottery. It's a great idea." And Margaret Thatcher said, "I don't think so."
Yes. She came round to the idea. She was wrong on it, actually.
Shall we see if
it's one of the few things I admire about Margaret Thatcher.
No, because she didn't want the state to nationalise gambling. That's why she was objecting to it.
Well, because it used to be illegal. I mean, the off-course bookies around my way, blokes in raincoats hanging around in the Fulham Palace Road.
In your day, Stephen, back in the Victorian.
And black windows as well. All betting shops had black windows. You couldn't see into betting shops. It's a bit like speakeasy bars in America because it was seen to be immoral. But this all leads us to, the old budget, doesn't it? Because are we going to meet again before the next budget?
We are.
Are we?
No, it's next Wednesday.
Exactly.
You'll be meeting in the minutes before.
Exactly.
The countdown.
Exactly.
And it's the day I'm moving house.
Yeah.
But listen, Mike, what happened to the football last night, by the way?
What happened to the football last night? Thank you very much for bringing that up. I am a great believer in the union. The fact that Scotland...
What, the trade union?
No. The union of England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland. And Scotland qualified last night. For those who are not great football fans, believe me, the culture of the Scots is the most wonderful atmosphere they create at football matches.
But I've heard it called some things.
They're going to be a fantastic asset to the World Cup next year in America, Canada and Mexico.
And the USA.
Why it's in 3 countries.
Well, because it's so big now, you won't believe it, there's 48 teams next year. In 1966, when we went in this country, 16 teams.
Is that so?
Yeah, it's now 3 times.
That's why we won it.
But
the other interesting stat, when the Eurovision Song Contest started, do you know how many countries were in it?
14.
Oh, how do you know that?
We used to win it most of the time. Boom, bang, bang. Pop it on a spring. Congratulations. Making your mind up.
Pearl Carr and Teddy Johnson. Sing Little Birdie.
We really have gone wildly off.
But did you see Scott McTominay's goal?
We're going to have to leave it there.
We're not talking about the goals because we can't show them to viewers. But it's congratulations, Scotland. And Wales may qualify.
Yeah, I know, with Harold Wilson scoring a hat-trick.
2 more games and Wales will be there. Wales, England, Scotland.
That's all we've got time for. I look forward to seeing
Don't you think the idea of Harold Wilson scoring,
Stephen? And we know that you are both self-appointed heartthrobs and seducers, but I think Andrew put you to shame a little bit earlier.
Middle-aged babe, Magnum.
I didn't spot that. It's going to be a meme. It's going to go viral.
It will,
looking at?
I have no idea. Plenty more to come. You're with Britain's Newsroom on GB.
I was just going to say, I thought my ship had come in.
Hello again, very good day to you. This is your GB News weather update from the Met Office. More wintry weather to come as we go through the rest of today and also into tomorrow. Plenty of snow showers in areas exposed to some brisk northerly winds which are dragging Arctic air across us. No wonder it is so chilly out there at the moment. There was some wetter wintry weather across southern parts this morning. That's now clearing away towards the southeast, and otherwise really it is a case of areas exposed to that northerly wind seeing further showers, and these readily falling as snow across parts of northern Scotland, even some parts of northern England. Further south, anything wintry likely to be confined to higher ground. Many inland areas actually staying largely dry, but it is cold for all of us. Temperatures several degrees below average for the time of year, and there's a biting wind as well, which is going to make it feel even colder. Into this evening, and watch out for snow accumulations really building up across the northern half of Scotland as those showers continue to pile in. Drier across central southern parts, clearer skies though to start the night, and through much of the night means it's going to turn really chilly here. Snow showers across parts of of Northern Ireland, down the eastern side of England, and some snow showers pushing into parts of Wales and maybe the southwest of England. There will be some showers here. Whether or not any turn wintry, well, that's still to be seen. As we go overnight, the showers continue in areas exposed to that northerly wind, so western coasts, eastern parts, and also the northern half of Scotland. Elsewhere, staying dry with some clear skies, and as a result, temperatures really taking quite a drop. Many places falling several degrees below freezing, could get to negative double figures in the sheltered glens of Scotland. And then tomorrow, really, it's looking quite similar to today, really. The wind will have backed a little bit, so that will change where we see the showers just a touch. They may penetrate a little bit further inland across some parts of northeast England, across the North York moors. We could see snow building up to 15-25 centimetres, perhaps above 100 metres, so some significant disruption here.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Very good morning to you. Back to Andrew and Miriam shortly. First, the headlines. The UK must step up to a more dangerous world, John Healey says, revealing a Russian spy ship has been sitting on the edge of UK waters. The Yantar, designed to map undersea cables, allegedly shone lasers at RAF pilots amid rising incursions, drone disruptions and 90,000 cyber attacks on UK systems. Inflation has dipped to 3.6% in the last reading before next week's budget. Rachel Reeves says it's good news. The Conservatives accuse Labour of fuelling higher prices. Meanwhile, opposition parties and campaign groups are urging Rachel Reeves to target the wealthy instead of broad tax rises in her budget. The Chancellor is reportedly considering higher property taxes on the most valuable homes. Breaking in the last hour or so, the UK Supreme Court has ruled that Christian-focused religious education in Northern Ireland schools is unlawful. Justice upheld a father and daughter's challenge, saying the current syllabus breaches human rights by failing to be objective, critical and pluralist. In the US, lawmakers have overwhelmingly voted to force the release of the Justice Department's Epstein files. Donald Trump has dropped his opposition, but Republican critics say the issue has torn MAGA apart. The death toll in Ukraine has risen to at least 19 after one of Russia's deadliest attacks in months. Ukraine says more than 470 drones caused fires, blackouts and mass casualties. And Scotland are heading to their first World Cup in 28 years after a dramatic 4-2 win over Denmark. Captain Andy Robertson called it one of the greatest nights of his life. Wales, meanwhile, keep their hopes alive after smashing North Macedonia 7-1. Those are the headlines. I'll be back with you after Prime Minister's questions.
For all the latest from GB News whilst you're on the go, get the GB News app. Scan the QR code now to download or visit gbnews.com/app.
Welcome back. It's 11:34 and you're with Britain's Newsroom on GB News with Andrew and Miriam. And we've been getting even more of your snow pictures in. The first snow of 2025. Well, this side of 2025 anyway. Chris Simmons has sent this one in from County Durham.
Whoa, that's good.
Incredible.
That's real
Beautiful tree.
Stuff,
yeah.
isn't it?
And here's a snowy sunrise of the Caledonian Canal this morning, Inverness, from Claire Freeman.
And John Barnes in Aboyne in Aberdeenshire has sent this one of his garden view this morning. Wow,
That's
is
quite thick
stunning.
snow.
That's snowman territory, isn't it?
It is. Oh, it looks beautiful.
And of course, the one thing that links all these, all up north.
That's what I was going to say, that exactly. It has not...
when we had a little bit of sleet here, but some of the faint hearts behind us have been whinging about it. It's just a bit of sleet.
We used to have loads when I was living in Sheffield, but in Suffolk we haven't had any yet.
No.
Very sad.
And I live in North London, it's quite high up, so we get quite a bit.
Yeah. Well, moving on now, more than 50 private schools have closed since the government removed their VAT exemption in last year's budget. And now the former head teacher of one of those schools has told GB News that the government is leaving parents feeling desperate.
So this is our national reporter, Jack Carson, who has got the story.
Families who just want the best for their children, and that's who it's really hit the hardest, and it's just so sad.
Hayley Bowen is just one of more than 50 private school head teachers who have closed their doors since VAT changes came into effect in January. Announced in the last budget, the Chancellor Rachel Reeves said the plans would raise £1.5 billion.
To provide the highest quality of support and teaching that they deserve, we will introduce VAT on private school fees from January 2025. And we will shortly introduce legislation to remove their business rates relief from April 2025 too.
For the King Alfred School in Dudley, the change was too much, and in August, head teacher Hayley announced their immediate closure.
It was completely and utterly devastating because we were just about to purchase a bigger building for our school and expand into secondary education. This school was really set up to recover a really robust traditional education, to pass on all the best of our culture, the best that has been thought, said and done down through the ages, to go from that kind of momentum to then VAT coming in, and we lost 50% of our children in that final year. It was then not feasible.
The school was said to be the flagship for classical education in the UK at a price affordable for working parents. Back in January, GB News visited the school to see how children were taught a curriculum which celebrated history, philosophy and Christianity from an early age, values which the former head teacher feels are not a priority for the government.
It seems to be that they are providing more and more of what I would call like the basic parenting aspects of school, rather than really striving for robust and strong academics. Our school was quite different in the fact that it was pens and paper and the teacher teaching at the front, and I think that a lot of people wanted that. I think they were sick of their children being glued to devices.
The school was part of the Classical British Education Group, who aim to create a network of schools. For now, there's still hope the King Alfred School can open its playground once again.
We never wanted to close the school. It took us the best part of 10 years in trying to develop this, piloting the return to a traditional type of education. The way the systems are with the Department for Education and Ofsted and all the hoops that you have to jump through to comply, they almost make it like it's not worth doing.
Labour says the change to VAT on fees will help fund 6,500 new teachers and boost state education. But for this school, the books stay closed. Jack Carson, GB News, Dudley.
Well, thank you, Jack. And I have actually visited.
Think of a school closing.
I know. I visited that actual school.
Did you?
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. Set up by parents. They kept the fees as low as they possibly could. And the things that the children could do, because they had such high expectations of what they could learn and what they could know about history and languages, as well as, of course, science and maths. And it's just an absolute tragedy. They did everything they could to stay open, but the finances were just too much.
And Labour don't seem to care.
No.
And of course, those children now are going into the state sector, which is pretty overcrowded.
And these were not, I mean, obviously there are some schools that are unbelievably expensive, but these were not wealthy parents. You know, this was not a ridiculously expensive school. They were just doing their absolute best.
It's not Eton.
No, absolutely not.
And those schools were never going to be particularly impacted by VAT.
No, they're just charged.
Although they're probably there might be fewer scholarships as a result.
That is also true.
For poorer kids.
Well, still to come, Kemi Badenoch, Keir Starmer will go head-to-head at Prime Minister's Question Time at midday. Send in your questions for the Prime Minister, gbnews.com/your say. You're watching GB News.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you're looking to escape the cold weather in the UK, your best bet is Greece, where it will be warmer than average, albeit with some heavy showers. Cold, meanwhile, across Iberia, and that's because the same northerly winds affecting the UK over the next few days will bring colder than average weather to Spain, to Portugal. Just 9 degrees there in Barcelona. A band of rain through the Balearics into Italy, as well as parts of Greece. This actually intensifies during Friday and the weekend with some very wet weather across Central Europe.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, this is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here. GB News, Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline.
Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel. Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom. And a new report has argued that the religion of Islam is more connected with UK grooming gang criminality than ethnicity.
The report's been published by Christian Concern and explores possible influences of Islamic theology and law on grooming gangs in the UK, arguing that commentary has often focused on ethnicity rather than religion as a potential driver of the abuse.
Now, the report instead found that religion has a stronger correlation than ethnicity when it comes to criminality around the grooming gangs. And a spokesperson from Christian Concern who commissioned this report, Tim Dieppe, joins us now. Tim, welcome to the studio.
Thank you.
I read this report in full last night, and it's a very powerful report, and it goes through some interpretations of how Islam might be used by grooming gang members to justify their behaviour. Can you tell us more?
Yes, well, it's written by Dr. Mark Dury, who is an Australian academic expert on Islam and Islamic theology, and he highlights in particular 8 significant doctrines of Islam that have been used or can be used to justify some of the horrific abuse that we've all heard about with these grooming gangs, and he kind of argues that it ought to be called Islamic grooming gangs rather than Asian, which is a much broader term, or even Pakistani, because there are different ethnicities atrocities involved. And he says there's doctrines like the treatment of women and the superiority of Muslims over non-Muslims in the Quran, the treatment of, the way that women ought to dress and cover up or hide themselves in the presence of men, the no actual age of consent or minimum age of marriage in terms of Islamic theology. Even justification of sex slaves can be found in the Quran and in Islamic theology and Hadith, and he saw that with Islamic State reviving that kind of idea. So he's saying a lot of this stuff can be justified with Islamic theology and has been 8 different doctrines involved, and therefore we ought to be alert to that. And of course, we've seen the government try to commission and launch a national inquiry into this. And 5 grooming gang victims who were initially on the panel resigned, and part of their complaint, or perhaps the main part of their complaint, was really sort of expanding the remit of the inquiry and not looking at religion was one of their key complaints, because they've seen this in their abuse, they've experienced it, and part of their abuse has been religious in motivation and origin, sometimes forced into Sharia marriages, called kafir, referred to as worthless, and you're referred to as because you're non-Muslim, we're justified in abusing you in this way. And all of that kind of thing has happened. That's in the testimonies of victims that we've read and that are in this report here. So you can see that Islam is a key factor in very much of this abuse.
Do we know if any of the men who've been convicted, who were perhaps Pakistani origin, were citing the Quran as a defence? Some of the
victims have said, yes, they cited the Quran. They even got sometimes their victims to memorise parts of the Quran. They read it out. They prayed ahead of abusing them. We helped one victim who'd had 4 forced Sharia marriages to her perpetrators, the people who abused her. And then, of course, they divorced them, just saying, I divorced you 3 times, and all of that kind of thing goes on as well. So there has been, in some cases, not necessarily all cases, a very significant Islamic aspect to this abuse that is not being talked about. This is partly why we commissioned this report, wanted to get this report out to say, look, Islam is a factor in this and we can't ignore it. And if you're going to look at it properly and have a national inquiry, as we should, then religion ought to be talked about as well, not just ethnicity. And that's a key factor, and the victims themselves want to see it properly addressed.
And one of the points that the report makes is that because the West and our countries become so secular, we have forgotten how important religion is in setting culture. So we've almost ignored the influence of Islam and thought, well, how can that possibly justify anybody's behaviour? Or we've thought of all religions as being like Christianity, which obviously does place women as equal, doesn't allow treatment like that.
Yes, exactly. There's a real religious illiteracy in our culture at the moment, and an assumption that all religions are sort of effectively equal. I remember discussing with colleagues in my workplace when I worked in finance, and I'd say, well, actually, Muhammad was a war leader and he killed lots of people. And they're like, that can't be true. He's a religious leader, because they're thinking about it in terms of Christianity. Well, historically, that is true. That's clearly in the doctrine of Islam. That's in the history of Muhammad. That's in the text that Muslims revere. So, yes, we're sort of not really understanding Islam. Many people in our culture don't understand what Islam is really like, haven't read the text themselves, including most Muslims, actually, haven't read the Quran for themselves, don't really know what it teaches. They're kind of cultural Muslims, have a sense of, well, we go have this community and this kind of religion without really understanding what it's like. But what we're saying is, if you do look at the text, and if you do think about what the teaching is, you do look at the example of Muhammad and so on, then you can find this justification, you can find this teaching, and sadly it's really bad for the women and so on, the victims of these horrific abuses.
So lots of Muslims would say, no, absolutely, grooming gangs cannot be justified by Islam, but essentially the report's saying that there are texts in Islam that some men could have used to back up their behaviour. And
have used, and also another aspect of the report is that this hasn't just been exclusively in the UK, it's been in other countries as well. We saw, for example, Boko Haram capturing Christian girls in Nigeria, and there's various other places as well where we've seen this. So, we think it's like a UK exclusive thing, never been seen anywhere else. Well, actually, it's been seen, in a sense, all through the history of Islam in terms of its treatment of non-Muslim women in the Islamic cultures.
It's quite important that police and prosecutors read this report.
It is. Yes, we want everyone to read it, and it should be read by every participant in an inquiry that goes on as well, and people should properly understand, and we're urging them really to take account of the religious aspects, as has not been really done up to now.
Well, Tim Dieppe from Christian Concern, thank you so much for joining us to discuss that report. And joining us now is the Director of Domestic Policy from Pickthall House, Jacob Williams, who is a Muslim. Jacob, thank you so much for joining us. You will have heard that discussion with Tim. To what extent do you think that aspects of Islam have been used to justify some of the behaviour of those caught in grooming gangs?
Well, I think the first thing I should say, which neither the report nor Tim would deny, is the vast majority of British Muslims like myself unequivocally condemn these appalling crimes and don't think they're in any way religiously sanctioned, and indeed support a full national inquiry into what's going on. Now, the report is actually rather more nuanced, I think, than Tim's presentation made it sound. The report, in fact, acknowledges that the so-called street Islam of these disgusting criminals isn't actually even the most conservative, most literalist interpretation of Islam. Even the most literalist positions don't endorse the criminal behaviour these people are doing. Now, what the report then says is that some of these literalist positions could be interpreted by, and indeed have been interpreted by, deeply pathological individuals as justifying their disgusting crimes. That is no doubt true, and that is true of those individuals. What's also quite sad to see from Tim is really presenting a quite theologically illiterate presentation of Islam as the most literalist, simplistic readings of the
But Jacob,
Quran.
it's not just anecdotal, it's not just theoretical. We have the actual evidence from the trials of the victims speaking about being forced to memorise the Quran, being forced into Sharia marriages, religion being used as a justification for their abuse.
Well, I'm not denying that. And I'm not denying that, as I just said, deeply pathological individuals are manipulating, are using, are abusing certain highly literalist interpretations of Islam to justify their disgusting crimes. Now, a large part of the reason that this behaviour occurs, isn't to do with even these most literalist interpretations, which don't support this behaviour, but rather is to do with particular kinds of a small minority among Pakistani communities from very, very tribal backgrounds. This is why it happens in Pakistan as well in certain places, where people haven't really adopted kind of civic norms of treating strangers well, core British values like this. And it's really, in large part, about tribalism and these highly isolated micro-communities among certain subsections of the community, rather than about theology actually justifying this. I mean, because that, as even the report acknowledges, isn't really what's going on.
These things are happening in Rochdale and Rotherham. They weren't happening in a remote Pakistani community.
No, but if you look at the backgrounds of these people and their ethnic backgrounds, I think you'll find that was the ultimate origin of many of the individuals involved. Sorry?
And some were born here.
Yes, and we all know there's been issues with integration, as this channel has said many, many times. So, of course, you would expect that many people who were born here haven't fully integrated.
Well, we're going to have to leave it there, but Jacob Williams, thank you so much for coming on this morning. And still to come,
Kimmy Payne-Knox taking on Sir Keir Starmer at PMQs at midday. Stay with us for the build-up.
And the most wicked.
But first of all, here's your weather.
2021 recommendation of Mr. Justice Horner, the last...
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's certainly a cold day for all of us. Arctic winds bringing snow showers to some parts of the United Kingdom, but not all parts. It's going to be sunny in many areas rather than snowy. Having said that, we do have a little feature clearing the southeast first thing, bringing a mix of rain, sleet and snow in parts of the southeast. Once that's out of the way by lunchtime, we've just got this straight northerly wind bringing air directly from the North Pole and making it feel particularly cold. Temperatures at a maximum of 6 or 7 degrees, but add on the wind and you can take off a few degrees from that temperature in terms of the feels like, and that wind certainly bringing frequent showers, and these showers almost entirely consisting of snow away from immediate coast. That snow really building up across northern Scotland. We're talking about 5 to 10 centimetres over modest hills and 20 to 30 centimetres by the end of Thursday over 300 metres. Likewise, I think Northern Ireland seeing a mix of rain and sleet showers, but the Sperrins likely to see a snow covering. Northeast England seeing some significant snow accumulations. Most likely the North York Moors getting quite a pasting, 20 centimetres in some places above 200 to 300 metres. Likewise, West Wales and the southwest continue to see showers coming in from the Irish Sea. Parts of Pembrokeshire, a very localised part, could see 10 centimetres of snow. Bodmin Moor, likewise a few centimetres. Away from the higher ground towards the southwest and northeastern parts of the UK where we've got rain or sleet showers, it's going to be icy first thing Thursday, a widespread frost across the UK, so some slippery surfaces around, but actually away from the coasts, away from the northeast and the far southwest, we do have plenty of bright skies and dry weather through the Midlands, the southeast, southwest Scotland, for example, but wherever you are, it's going to continue to feel very cold.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
There's just 2 weeks left to see how you could win your Christmas this year paid for by us. First, we'll give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash. Then we'll